Yeah, I'm still sick about what happened yesterday. I am. And I know a lot of us are too. I know that's on our minds this morning, and that's okay. It's warranted. You're supposed to feel the way you feel about that embarrassing loss that we took from the Vanderbilt Commodores in Neyland Stadium on Senior Day. Diego Pavia ran wild on the Tennessee defense, and they had no answer for it. But I'll talk about that and a whole lot more here at Just Shooting the Sports. Let's go.
Survive if I let you.
Pavia ran wild on the Tennessee defense. He did any and everything that he wanted to in that second half. He rushed for a total of 165 yards on 20 carries for 1 touchdown. He passed for 268 yards with 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions. And hell, if it wasn't for the 2 interceptions, they probably would have beat us worse than what the score looked like. Just to be honest. His total production was more than our offense as a whole, which is crazy by itself. He talked his shit and he bagged it up, and I can't do nothing but respect that. You know, congrats to Vanderbilt. Why? It's because this is really their first time ever really being relevant. Unfortunately, it just happened to be on our dime, on our time, on our field. First 10-win season ever in Vanderbilt Commodore history, and how fitting that it happened against our Tennessee Volunteers. Now, with all that being said, let's look at the season that we had. One, I want to say this is our first time having 3 losses in Neyland Stadium since Pruitt, if I'm not mistaken. Hey, let me know if I'm wrong or not. But I'm pretty sure this is the first time since the Pruitt year that we had 3 losses in Neyland Stadium. Secondly, we didn't beat any top 25 teams, current top 25 teams this season whatsoever. And out of those top 25 games that we lost, 2 of them we lost by more than 2 touchdowns. The other 2 we lost by a touchdown or by a field goal. Thirdly, Joey Aguilar had a great season. We have to give Joey Aguilar his flowers. Reason why I say that is because what other quarterback that you know of that transferred from one school, went to the other school, and then had to transfer from that school because a guy from our school went to the school that he transferred to, came in May, learned that offense in just a short amount of time, and you would have thought he was in this system a year ago. And he played well. Best game against the Georgia Bulldogs, which, let's face it, no other quarterback in the Heupel era previous to Joey Aguilar put up numbers the way he did. And he put up numbers against that Georgia Bulldog defense. And made it a game that we should have won. But the ball didn't go our way, as for a couple of games this season. When you look at the Mississippi State game, Joey Aguilar led us on a drive that was monumental. he drove in the touchdown to tie the game up. And then in overtime, we went ahead and took over and we won the game on the road in a hostile environment at the time. So he did great. Kudos to Joey Aguilar. Hey, I'm going to go ahead and give out my shout-outs. Kudos to the wide receiver group. All three of those guys had over 700 yards receiving. Brazel, I want to say he finished the regular season with 9 touchdowns, maybe 10 touchdowns. I think Mike Matthews had about 4 or 5, and I know Staley had about 4 or 5, maybe 6. So those guys did really well this season. The offensive line, for the most part, they did pretty good as far as keeping Joey upright. For the first probably 5-6 games, they probably allowed maybe 1 or 2 sacks. And that was it. But then as the season went on and went on and went on, there were a lot of breakdowns on that offensive line. The run game wasn't as potent as we've had in the previous years. But I understand it from a point of, this is really Deshaun Bishop's, coming out party this year. Star Thomas, he did a great job. I wish they would have ran him a little bit more. Peyton Lewis, he did okay. He didn't really have too many opportunities. But even when he did, the offensive line really wasn't blocking well during those times. The tight ends, they did well. But Ethan Davis, I really feel good about the future for Ethan Davis here at the University of Tennessee, because he definitely had a chance to show us how athletic that he is. But we always knew that about him. That was never the problem, his athleticism whatsoever. It was just, staying healthy. I talked about that before. In regards to the defense, the D-line, we lost a lot of pieces from last year. We lost a lot of great pieces, a lot of guys that were dogs in the trenches that played beautiful. And that's why we had a top 10 defense last year. We lost some to the league. Hell, we lost some in the transfer portal. But, that's the business right now. That's just, it is what it is. The secondary, we took some hits earlier in the offseason. Jamal McCoy, he tore his ACL. Of course, he didn't play none this year. Ricky Gibson against Syracuse, he gets injured, and then he's out for the year. And then, of course, the Boo Carter situation during the offseason with him, and, of course, with the Nico situation, but definitely with Boo Carter. He was never all in, even when, during the regular season. And that's just me with the eye test. That's just me going to games and actually looking at him and, and looking at his body language. I think the only 2 times that I actually saw Boo Carter actually excited was when he made that play against Mississippi State, when he hit the wide receiver in the backfield. And the other one was when I want to say Caleb Beasley took a pick 6 to the house. They were really the only 2 times that I saw him excited. But anytime before that or after that, you could tell, like, normally, when your teammates come over there to, give you a high five or pat you on the back or pat you on the helmet, you'll react. There was no reaction whatsoever. That's when I knew. I say, man, he been checked out. He's just going through the motions, because where else could he have went? It was too late to go into the portal, so he was just going through the motions and then waiting until the season to finally go ahead and I already knew what he was going to do. He was going to enter the transfer portal. That's just what it was. But whether whose fault it was, I really don't care about that. The end result is Tennessee is still Tennessee. Boo Carter's going somewhere else, and that's just what it is. No disrespect to either one. I hope he, finds a team that will take him in, and I hope he gets that spark back and plays the way that I know he can play. Because he is an athlete, and he's real good at what he does. When he has his mind focused on it. But regardless of that, what were y'all predictions? I went live and I asked that question, but let's be real here, man. I think everybody's predictions when the Nico situation went down, I think everybody's predictions were like 8-4, 9-3, 10-2. Then there was really an 11-1. I said 11-1, but I think I was just talking out my neck on that one. But I think a lot of people are on the 8-4, 9-3, maybe 7-5 level. And I think those were the expectations in the beginning. But then once we saw what Joey Aguilar and that offense can do, and of course the way the scheme was updated and how it changed and what it looked like in the first couple of games, the expectations went higher. You know, there was a higher, what can I say? There was an excitement about the potential of this team during those first couple of games, especially even after the Georgia game. Even when, you know, we took the L and we took Georgia to overtime, there was a lot of excitement. The expectations went from 8-4 to then it started at 9-3 was the minimum, then 10-2, you know, and then I think 10-2 was the you know, the maximum, you know what I mean, in a college football playoff. But then the losses started piling up. The Alabama game, that hurt. First half, yeah, you threw it in the inside, should have threw it to the outside, but at the same time, you shouldn't have put them in that position to begin with. The defense did not play well. You gave up 2 90-yard drives, you know, during that game, and then your tackling was atrocious. I don't understand why, as a Tennessee program, we can't tackle. And this has been going on before Heupel, man. For some reason, we just have tackling problems. Why is that? Are we cursed? What is it? Because I'm trying to figure that out myself about that. We've always had this problem. This ain't a Heupel problem. This ain't a Tim Banks problem. This is a Tennessee problem. Point blank, period. So, and then, you know, and then like I said, man, the losses started piling up, and then we lose to Oklahoma when we shouldn't have. You know, we were a slant touchdown away from winning this game, but as soon as David Sanders, you know, he read it the wrong way, and he didn't block, you know, do his blocking assignment. Joey Aguilar gets sacked, loses the ball. They take it back for a touchdown on the scoop and score, and that was the momentum changer. We were not the same after that. And Oklahoma's not good. They have a defense, but offensively, they shit. Call it like we see it. They're terrible. But their defense plays well enough to keep them in the game, and then when they have that opportunity to get you, they get you. And that's what happened. We lost 33-27. A slant, when I say a slant touchdown away, that's the difference right there. That could have been a 34-33 win, and we would have been sitting high and been like, okay, we got a chance. But that all went out the window. And then, you know, we beat New Mexico State up. It didn't really look good. It looked sloppy. But then we went down to Florida, and we probably played one of the best games that we played all season on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively. And regardless what people might say, well, Florida ain't that good. Well, hell, Florida beat Texas, a Texas team that has beaten 3 top 10 teams this season and possibly could be a 3-loss team to get into the playoffs. They have the resume, but I don't think they'll get in. Still don't think they'll get in. But still, they lost 3 games, but they beat 3 top 10 teams. We couldn't even sniff a win against a top 25 team, let alone a top 10 team. See, that's the difference. They still found a way. Even though they got 3 losses, they still find a way to make an impact. What we do. We just roll over and die. And I hate to say it like that, but that's just what it is. And tonight, well, not tonight, yesterday, we literally just wet the bed in the second half. We wet the bed. On top of that, there were plenty of opportunities in the first half to have more than 21 points. But once again, we stalled out. Now, last year around this time, we said, hey, something needs to change. You need to change that offense. Everybody done picked it up now. They know what it looks like. Let's just drop 8 and not let you kill us over the top. And then what happened? You went in the drawing board. You went in your toolbox. You got your tools out. What did you do? You switched up the scheme. It was still a spread. It was still a spread offense. It was still a veer and shoot offense. But you added some wrinkles to it that looked real well. That looked really good. And it made an impact. Because then they had to come up. They couldn't play 8 back because you might get killed on a drag route, pass through the middle, and then what did that do? Open up the deep ball. But then there were games you would go away with it. We wouldn't even see that play calling. at all. We wouldn't see it at all. I'm talking about not one time in a game. Like you wrapped the hell out of Florida last week. Florida didn't know what the fuck to do. And then what happens? We come out to Vanderbilt and just play some more regular ass offense. We just regular. You got to stop that. You have to stop that. Every game you need to come out with the toolbox to make the opposing team's defense honest as hell. That's what you got to do. But anyway, it is what it is. We're 8-4. We're probably going to go to some bowl in bumfuck Egypt somewhere. Music City Bowl, Citrus Bowl. But I know I'll tell you what it ain't. It ain't a Sugar Bowl. It's not a Fiesta Bowl. It's not a Rose Bowl. Hell, it's not even a Cotton Bowl. And hell, it ain't even a Peach Bowl. And it sure as hell ain't a playoff game. When are we going to get to that point? And I understand the fans' frustration. I get it. It ain't about just this season. It's about the totality of the Tennessee football program ever since 1998. The last time we've been in an SEC championship game, 2007. We are 18 years removed from that. And we have not come close to even sniff it, to even be in contention, except for 2022. That was the last time where we had even a glimpse of possibly not only playing for an SEC championship, but playing for a national championship. But of course, we know what happened during that season towards the end. We imploded. So I get the frustrations of the fan base. Like I said, this ain't a this year frustration. This ain't a last year frustration. This is the totality of the Tennessee football program within the last 20 plus years have not won an SEC championship. For the last 18 years have not even played for an SEC championship. While everybody else goes out here and plays for SEC championships. While everybody else goes out and plays for national championships. But you also got to look at it like this for Heupel. It's time for him to go with a veteran, take that back. It's time for him to go with a young boy at quarterback. I can't do these one-year rentals anymore. Just can't. That's not going to make this offense go even further. You need to be able to trust in your guys. Now, we would have had a 2-year, but Nico decided otherwise. And that's why we ended up being in the position that we were in. So that was a Nico issue on why we ended up getting a veteran like Joey Aguilar, because the backups just weren't ready. And I like Jake Merklinger, but he's not that guy. And I know I've been hearing around the horn that he's planning to leave and transfer anyway. Cool. We appreciate your services here at the at the University of Tennessee. But he's just not that guy for this position. Now, he does have legs. And I think that's the key for this offense. We have to have a quarterback that not only can pass, but can run. We need to have that Hendon Hooker-esque of a quarterback. Joey Aguilar is good, but the boy can't run worth to save his life. We got to have that. Joe Milton was good. He can run, but hell, he damn near didn't want to. And then when he did, it was too late. And then he wasn't accurate enough to throw downfield. But we have some guys. George McIntyre, I think we got to look. Next year is going to be a gut check for us. Why? Because we got a hell of a schedule. We got a nice schedule. We got to play Texas. We got to play Texas A&M. I think we got to play South Carolina, if I'm not mistaken. We got to play Georgia Tech. We got a tough schedule coming up. It's not going to get easy now. 9-game conference, it's not going to get easy. So something's got to give. And it needs to start with the defensive coordinator, Tim Banks. Those days are gone. Those days are over. I'm so sorry. I don't care about the trajectory of the defense and how it looked and how, you know, it got better every year. Well, it wasn't better this year. But at the end of the day, I don't give a damn what you do for 3 quarters. Can you do it for 60 minutes? That's the question. Can you do it for 60 minutes? So a lot of changes need to be made. We need to get in that transfer portal and get some dudes. We need to continue to try to develop these guys that are coming in. And hopefully we can keep the recruiting class that we have. And I'm going to talk about that recruiting class in a later video this week. But anyway, let me go ahead and get out of here. You know who I am, Black Guy Jones. You know where we are, Just Shooting the Sports. And you know anytime I talk about that Power T and the one beside me, you already know what it is. Go Big Orange and go damn VOLS. Don't get it twisted. I'm still a volunteer and I still bleed orange. Let's go.